Hello everyone, this is Tim, and this is going to be a summary of the first session of the A Song of Ice and Fire campaign that I'm playing in. Zig Copacetic is the GM or narrator for this game. Hammered Shitsteak is playing Marcus Roderick. Rajalb1 is playing Alina Roderick, the younger daughter of Marcus. And I'll be playing Brander Snow, which is a bastard son of the Lord, and who gets abused a lot. And has some fairly interesting things going on in the background, and hopefully they come out during the game. But I'm glad to be playing with these guys again. I had a lot of fun the first time we played in Zig's game, and he decided to invite me back again, even though I have to watch my son at times. So I'm holding my son in the videos we're playing with Google Plus Hangouts, so they get to see me trying to hit the mute button and all the stuff that's going on in the background. So hopefully it's not too distracting for them. With Skype, with the audio only, that's the way we did it last time. They didn't see a lot of that stuff. So this time they see, my son screaming in my ear and, putting his fingers in my ears and my nose and touching my eyes the whole time. So that's a little bit, I guess might be a bad thing to Google Plus Hangouts, but I think Roger liked seeing my son basically abusing me the whole time. So that was pretty funny. So anyway, the game so far started out pretty in media res. That's the way it started out basically. So Marcus, Alina, and Brander had been invited to Deepwood Moat for a festival that was being held there. They spent 2 weeks there taking in the sights, smells, and all the entertainments they could get their hands on. And while traveling back towards Wayport, which is basically a port city that we control, our house family, House Roderick, they're going on the way back to Wayport, and the group came upon a broken down carriage that was stuck in the mud. A man was trying to get the carriage unstuck, while a heavyset woman was yelling at him and screaming at him. There was a pretty young woman, sort of quiet, that was in the back of the carriage, but she wasn't really saying much or trying to look around too much. She might even had a little bit of a sad quality to her. Marcus, that's Eunice's character, introduced the group vaguely, didn't really want to throw our name out there, we just want to be sort of like vague travelers. And then he told Brander, my character, to help them get unstuck, to basically get in the mud and push the carriage out. And I told Eunice before we started the game that he can, we're from a very abusive, dysfunctional family, so I told him to totally do that to me in time, order me around, cuff me in the back of the head. We'll see how much he gets into that, but he basically ordered me down in the mud, and I helped get the carriage unstuck. My character sort of got down in the mud and let them step on his back to get out of the carriage so it would be lighter. Just sort of being of use is, I guess, what Brander likes to try to do. So they got the thing out, and they started moving, and then we as a group were invited back to the inn where this woman, Wina, ran things. And it turned out to be a sort of go-between business for ransoms if you, capture another person from a rival house or a different house. She sort of is the negotiator between those two parties when they're trying to figure out how much the ransom's going to be, how many silver stags or gold dragons, that sort of thing. So when the group arrived at the inn, two rough-looking twins came out. One was a little bit fatter than the other, and they were both drunk. And they were treating this woman, who turned out to be Lady Woodtower, like a sack of potatoes. They just sort of threw her on their shoulder and walked her in the joint. And us as players didn't realize at the time that Woodtower is one of the main families for Bear Island. That's where our family's from. Now, Bear Island probably sounds familiar because of the Mormont family. So these twins ended up being Lady Wina's nephews, and they help her out with this business that she runs for ransoms. They also learned that there was a man with boots who had his, he was basically had his feet kicked up on the table, and he turned out this man was named Bo Hoon, which was going to be the husband of this Lady Woodtower, because her father couldn't pay the ransom for her, and I guess he was in a lot of debt. She didn't seem like she liked that prospect of being married to him very much, and Marcus was making a very forward presence in the room. He had his hand down on his shoulder while he was talking to him. And sadly, I missed some of the dialogue as Wes was screaming in my ear that day. But he was, making himself known and being sort of threatening and, like just asking questions and, making suggestions. But with a little bit of intimidation, he was able, to use his status as well to sort of change things and, basically end the marriage. And she came with us, this Lady Woodtower. And by doing so, I guess it broke a tradition, which made Wina very unhappy for her business, that the ransom was not paid. That isn't good for business, I guess. So we all got on our horses and headed out of the place. And on the way to this Wayport town, they were later ambushed by Wina and her nephews, as well as Bohun. Flaming arrows were shot at the group, but this only sort of aided my character Brander to see them and then shoot one of these twins in the guts, and then later in the back. The burning arrows, however, spooked the horses, and only one of them was able to be snatched up by Roger's character, Alina. And they managed to rescue my horse because my horse has Marcus's two-handed greatsword on it, so they didn't want that one to get away. So Marcus ran, got his sword, and then ended up cleaving the other one of the twins in half, I believe through the neck, down through the chest, and then grabbed Wina by the throat. He then passed her off to Alina, who in turn had her shadow cat rip out her throat after she was pleading, and we're a very brutal bunch, it seemed, just going by this first session. Unlike last session, or last campaign, where we were very subtle and there's a lot of political things going on, we're like a sledgehammer to the face in this campaign. So it already has a different feel and different vibe to it. So, Wina's throat's ripped out, her blood spraying all over the ground. And during this time, my character Brander was putting Lady Woodtower on his horse. And Bohun, who was going to be the Lady Woodtower's husband, came out of the woods, totally ambushed me, and put a knife to Brander's throat. He in turn, Brander basically turned quickly. He sort of just snapped, and he was, he was shooting arrows. So he slapped the horse's ass with the top of the bow. When Lady Woodtower was on top of it, and she just shrieked off into the darkness. I turned around, and Brander just bit into this Bohun's throat. He managed to cut my neck in the process. I burned a destiny point and, make sure it happened. I only have 2 of them, so, I'm putting a lot of stuff on the line here, but, when your character has a knife to the throat, you got to do what you got to do. And so I'm biting his throat, and, things aren't going very well. And my character has this ability where he goes berserk, and he gets like a free attack, basically, if he gets wounded. So, by him cutting my throat, it just basically doomed him. Because I pulled out my flail and just sort of like knocked him back and just start smashing in his face. And as we were playing, I was sort of motioning with the, my hands and my facial gestures. And Eunice and, all the guys thought that was great. That they wanted to make like a gif of me going, basically just totally flipping out on this guy, and he was sprawled back before Brander, and the flail just kept hitting him in the face until it turned into this just red mass of gore and wet ruin in front of him. But I just had Brander keep doing that until there was no more head. The chest cavity was all caved in. There was blood all over them. That's just the way I did it. So eventually Alina came over to Brander and calmed him down, had him come back to reality, and Brander sort of didn't really remember what happened. He kind of remembered the beginning and the end, but all the details in between, they were kind of fuzzy. So that was interesting to see happen. And I think that the relationship between Alina and Brander, brother and sister, or a half-brother and half-sister, I guess, technically, she's kind of taking on a sort of a motherly role, I think, since my mother's still alive, but in this family, the Lord Roderick, the head of the household, it's not a player character, has had 2 wives and a mistress. and his first 2 wives are dead. So there's the mistress that's the only one that's alive right now, and I don't know. But anyway, Alina was having some effect on Brander. She was taking care of him, calming him down, these sorts of things. Eventually, Marcus's character met up with Lady Woodtower, who had calmed the horse, and they got everyone back together. In the process, Brander was ordered by Marcus to hide the bodies, so he picked up the men and the women and dragged them off into the woods, found a ravine, and threw them into it. But he had this sort of strange vision that Zig was describing of this ravine where I threw them, looking like a gaping maw, a black hole into nothingness, and yet at the center of it there was this dazzling light that sort of like pierced my mind, and I was out of it for a while, just in this vision, when I started to hear the yells of my family members that brought me out of it, brought Brander out of it. He finished up the gruesome task and covered up the bodies with some brush and leaves and so forth, then came back. They finally arrived in Wayport after a long day's travel through the night. They didn't really want to stop and rest in case anybody else was coming to ambush us. Sunrise greeted them, but the ship that they expected to find there wasn't there. Their father had used all the ships in the local area to blockade the island and keep people from leaving or coming in there, because it seemed that Lady Woodtower's father had recently just passed. He was now dead, and his only heir, Lady Woodtower, was missing. Apparently she was kidnapped. So it kind of felt like we were all looking around like, wait a minute, she just fell into our laps, basically. This is amazing. Marcus was thinking about relationships with this beautiful woman. Maybe he could acquire these lands and strengthen the family. So he was all about that. And I think that Brander was also looking forward to perhaps maybe something with Marcus and this woman in the future, if that would go down. Mainly just for the strength of the family. So everyone was kind of looking forward to that. In addition, they talked to the mayor. His name is Simeon, and he has this strange collector's vibe about him, where he wants to have a lot of things from Essos and across the Narrow Sea. He has different exotic types of people around him in his employ, and he's a sort of representative for the family in this town that's across the water from our main base, our main place that we dwell. And I believe that's called Bearhold, but I'm still kind of getting used to all the terms and places. So we ended up staying the night there, and the plan was in the morning to get into some fisher's boat, fishing vessel, to head back to the island, because all the other ships that we could have gotten transportation on were being used for other purposes by the Lord Roderick. So that was pretty much the session. I was really sort of feeling out my character during this session. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but when I first started playing a character, I'm not exactly sure who they are. Sure, I have some ideas. I had some bullet points for how I wanted to try to roleplay them. And, places I think I might have stumbled. I think I was a little too over the top for Eunice at times. I think he wanted to reach through the computer, just like slap me or just laugh. And, well, Eunice, if you're watching, do that in character, man. So, that's totally, that's totally acceptable. So anyway, I'll try to keep up with the summaries for the sessions if I jot down notes and get time to do a video. But as far as other videos right now, I'm kind of struggling. I have to kind of section off 3 hours of a week to listen through all the audio for my Lamentations game, and then try to do a summary for that, as well as just get ready for the actual running of that game. And then I'm playing in this, and I want to try to do videos with this. So I'm going to try to do other videos, but it might just be game summaries for a while. So feel free to click on them or ignore them as you see fit. All right, everyone. I'll talk to you later. And I guess one final note. I really want to thank Garrick and a lot of the Facebook group for helping me with ideas for how to try to roleplay Brander. I think I'm going to use a lot of them. So, all right. I'll talk to you guys later.